You guys know I don't mess around when it comes to teen drama. Uh, if there's one thing I care about most, it's not film, okay? It's not dance, it's not music, it's teen drama. Teen drama is my favorite thing on the planet. I take my teen drama very seriously. I love it. I love it. So when I tell you that the first season of Gossip Girl is perfect, and I loved every single second of it, I hope you take me extremely seriously. I love every single thing about this. Oh my God. I'm gonna try not to get overexcited, but if I were asked to design what I would consider to be like the perfect teen drama, it would basically be Gossip Girl, which isn't to say that it's perfect, but it's everything that I want from the form. I think it's brilliant. I think it's flawless. I know we're only one season in, but this stands a shot at being the best. I may reach the apex with Gossip Girl. Maybe better than any of the other shows we've covered. It has that sort of promise. I think it has the potential to be better than Dawson's Creek, better than Buffy the Vampire Slayer, better than Veronica Mars, better than One Tree Hill, better than My So-Called Life, better than the Gilmore Girls, and better than the OC. And I think the OC is a pretty apt place to start. The OC is a show that we've covered extensively on this channel, and I enjoyed about half of it. In fact, I enjoyed the second season a lot. I thought it was tremendous, especially with the inclusion of Ryan's brother, Trey Atwood, played by Logan Marshall Green. It was fascinating. And Josh Schwartz really impressed me in in the first two seasons of the OC. Really impressed me. Little did I know that Josh Schwartz is also the showrunner, developer, creator of Gossip Girl. It's based on a novel, a popular series of novels. Josh Schwartz said he didn't want to jump right into another teen drama directly after the OC was canceled, but there was something almost gravitational that pulled him closer and closer to Gossip Girl, along with Stephanie Savage as the co-showrunner and co-creator. In its briefest explanation, Gossip Girl follows the lives of ultra-privileged kids in New York City. Um, from the Upper East Side, a place of old money, money that has been within these families for hundreds of years, possibly. So far as American history goes, it's ancient in our terminologies. The OC and Gossip Girl are pretty similar, um, thematically, meaning I think that Josh Schwartz was experimenting with caste systems, with class stratification, with the existence, even the possibility of young, tender, nervous, awkward, and real love between teenagers, um, within the nihilistic ethos that is the ultra modern world. But Gossip Girl is so good that it makes the OC look like a warm up. You know, it made it look like it was Josh Schwartz stretching his legs before running the teen drama marathon. The starting with the pilot, I was floored. I wish you could have seen me watch, because I've never watched Gossip Girl before. I should say that this is a first watch entirely. I've never watched Gossip Girl before. I had heard of it, but I want to say this was just after my time and it was on air. This came out in like 2008. I graduated high school in 2008. I was just out of the loop for this one, and I regret that entirely. I wish you could have seen me watch it. Watch these episodes. Like, I must have looked psychotic, positively mad, because I would be like clapping like so much, like bravo at the fucking composition, bravo at the show's design. I was laughing, I was gasping. There wasn't an idle moment. This is everything I want from the forms. This is everything I want the form to represent. Yes, there's class and social stratification. Yes, there are beautiful people. And yes, there are these postmodern elements, this postmodern momentum, actually, that is propelling these characters into the areas of narrative that hadn't been previously unexplored by the popular domain of culture. And there's no better place to start than at the top. I always find stories of of the ultra rich to be the most fascinating when it comes to coming of age stories. I just covered Gilmore Girls, and I remember saying that I loved the stuff at Chilton the most because I thought characters like Paris Geller and Tristan Dugray had the most to offer me, like intellectually and within a postmodern context, but also within an emotional one. I thought the stakes were a lot higher. They were playing for keeps. That it was a world that I thought lent itself to the theatricality of teen drama, to the exaggerated components of teen drama emotionality. So I love the stuff at Chilton and Gilmore Girls the most, and basically this is a show that takes place, you know, at an elite private school in the richest part of New York City. Our exorbitantly wealthy characters far outnumber our average ones. And they're a lot more interesting. But it should be said that I don't hate any of the six main kids. I love them all. I think they're great characters. I think they're fantastic. I do have my favorites. Two favorites. And one of them, I think, is currently one of the most fascinating characters I have ever seen in a teen drama. His name is Chuck Bass. Let's talk a bit about Chuck, shall we? Originally, Chuck Bass was conceived as a recurring or a guest character. He was supposed to reach the apex of his character during the pilot as the villain of it, considering in that first episode he sexually assaults two different women. One of them looks like a child. You couldn't start more evil than that. In fact, I heard the showrunner, Josh Schwartz, talking about the character after they decided to keep him on, because there was something compelling about Ed Westwick's characterization of Chuck Bass. Josh Schwartz really nailed it. He said that Chuck Bass is a throwback to the 80s nihilistic teen villains of James Spader. He described Chuck Bass as like totally evil. That's a quote. That makes sense, but you did it better. He's one of the best characters, the most fascinating character I have ever seen in a teen drama. This is a character out of my fucking dreams. Like, this is perfect. His primary love interest is Blair Waldorf, who um is my other favorite character. I thought Chuck was just a little bit more compelling, more more fascinating than Blair was, but not by much. And I have never felt more bisexual in my entire life than when I've watched Blair Waldorf and Chuck Bass make out with each other. I'm parched. But I'm trying to say something kind of profound about the show's design, about the narrative. What I'm trying to say is this. It's an expertly designed season of television, and it hits all the marks that it's supposed to until until the characters, their behavior kind of changes in the season finale, and they act outside of the standard narrative. And all throughout the season, people like Chuck Bass are saying, like his friend Nate is lamenting, "Don't you think that our lives are planned out? Don't you think that the narrative has already been written?" And Chuck Bass has said yes, and there are plenty of amazing things within that narrative, but happiness isn't on the menu. Happiness is not within the narrative. And Chuck Bass is fine with that kind of nihilistic give and take. He's fine with the hedonism. in exchange for his soul, which is a huge price to pay at such a young age. And these kids all seem much older beyond their years, but that is what exorbitant wealth and privilege does. It creates these figureheads, these paragons of upper crust, ultra rich virtue and appeal. And through these kids and the high stakes at which they play, in which they plan and scheme to ruin each other, that's a microcosm of the power plays that their parents pursue, that the people who run our worlds do. They always play for keeps, and someone always loses, and there's always a war going on. The season is incredibly designed. Every character completes their arc, and it feels like they're back in the same place. Yet they have changed, right? Serena has gone through an entire arc, a healing sort of arc. She's recovered from trauma, from secrecy, from a sin that she is continually punishing herself for. Nate has gone through an incredible arc at kind of taking control of his life, or at least realizing that no one is in control of it. No one's in control of their life. Your father has a drug problem. Your mother is running away. You have more control than even than the people that you perceive as your controllers do, as the people who dominate you do. No one can dominate you but yourself. Or even then, I think it's a more of a nihilistic sense of freedom for Nate. I think that Nate, by the end of this season, has realized no one has a choice. Not really. So don't dwell, don't brood perpetually. Happiness could be on the menu if you prepare it correctly, if you order it, if you're actually hungry for it. Blair has a pretty incredible arc as well, in which she becomes a little bit more liberated, because these kids also live in a restricted kind of way. They seem to be kids who have the world at their fingertips, but there is a limited expression applied to that. They can't step too far out of their social graces, out of the etiquettes, out of the roles of out of the social politics. They can't step too far outside of it. They can't go against the code. They have to follow the rules of the game. So it is pretty limited. It is pretty restrictive. But Blair seems to be able to liberate herself in a way that feels genuine, and it's something that she probably was repressing, because she says that she brings out the best of Chuck, and Chuck brings out the worst in her, but it's a very good thing. And then we get to Chuck, which is why it gets very fascinating. Yes, he is a throwback to the 80s nihilistic teen villains of James Spader, like Totally Evil, like Pure Evil. Sure, yes. Um, he falls in love with Blair Waldorf, but he does a lot of unforgivable things all throughout it. But he is so cinematic. He looks incredible. He has the most physical poetry out of anybody in the cast. There's a lot of applied meaning. There's a lot of meaning within everything that Chuck Bass does. And since it's coming from a place of pure nihilism, you know that that meaning is also torturing him, because he is the king of the meaningless. He is the prince of a meaningless empire. And yet, he's found himself feeling something, feeling love for Blair, and that terrifies him. In the season finale, he seems happy to go with her to Tuscany on this romantic getaway. And his father, and I actually can't tell if his father is trying to be kind, or if his father is trying to keep his son in the arrested development of chaotic and evil nihilism. Because he seems to be speaking over his shoulder in a way that could be perceived as kind, and it probably should be, but I the parents are deeply manipulative here. A lot of them are. And he is speaking to his son and saying, everything's going to change. You have a real girlfriend now. It'll teach you about responsibility, growth, about maturity. You'll come back from Europe a new man. There's nothing you can do about it. You will change and you will grow. And you can see on Chuck's face, no. Chuck has approached a character arc. Chuck has become the reformed, lovesick hero? That's not Chuck Bass. So Chuck takes the bouquet of flowers that he's prepared to give Blair when he meets her at like his private jet's gonna take them there or something. Something absurdly something absurd like that. And you see him throw it in the trash and he keeps one rose for the cute, slutty blonde who just appeared in his room. I mean, he basically sleeps with her, or he does sleep with her. That's exactly what he does. But what he does is far more interesting, is he rejects the narrative. He feels the arc coming. We all see the arc coming. This is where the arc is supposed to be. And Chuck sees the change and rejects it, recoils from it, and just in one fluid motion, like that of a dancer, because the actor and the character is written in a way that is that's beyond graceful. It's beyond graceful. It's on another level. He makes nihilism the most beautiful ballet that you could possibly imagine. So when he's doing these motions, it's fluid and he turns and he's back to the pilot. All of that change is now buried inside of him. And he's back to being pure evil. Josh Schwartz had characters reject the narrative on the OC, but never this effortlessly and never this deliberately. Chuck Bass saw his arc, and Chuck Bass refused to embrace it. And I applauded him for that. I do love Chuck and Blair together, but I kind of love the carnage that they can wreak, the havoc that they cause. I love how mean and awful and evil they can be. I love how cruel they are together. And it doesn't matter who you are, you don't fuck with Blair Waldorf. Hell hath no fury, like a Chuck Bass scorned. I'm more afraid of Blair, to tell you the truth. Blair's an incredible character. She's unbelievably sexy. Oh my God, she's unbelievable to look at. But even more fun to watch because she is just. I was about to say just like Chuck, but Chuck. Blair has a moral compass. She does. She doesn't necessarily follow it, or it's damaged for sure, but Chuck doesn't believe in the concept of morality at all. He does not have one whatsoever. It's a non-issue with Chuck. Blair knows what's right and what's wrong, but she also knows what she has to do within the constant warfare of ultra-rich teen experiences. I like her power struggles with Jenny over control of the inner clique. I like her giving her virginity to Chuck in the back of a limo, cheating on Nate. I like that a lot. But what I like most about Blair was the way she defeated Georgina Sparks, who I'd like to talk about as well, played by Michelle Trachtenberg, who, god damn, yeah, I've never felt more bisexual in my entire life. Everyone is so fucking sexy. It's weird. It's not weird. It's great. It's great. I love it. Keep it coming, Gossip Girl. But Georgina Sparks comes in the last handful of episodes of season one because Josh Schwartz is a master of teen drama and he knows exactly what to do. My favorite characters in shows are normally what I call postmodern wrecking balls. Abby Morgan, Dawson's Creek, postmodern wrecking ball. Rachel Katina, One Tree Hill, postmodern wrecking ball. Faith Lahane, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, postmodern wrecking ball. You understand. These are characters that come into postmodern teen dramas with one raison d'etre, with one purpose, one goal in mind to destroy a perfectly good narrative, to crush, destroy, to challenge archetypes and scenarios, to fuck up the design, and watch the fire, the chaos that occurs in its wake. And Georgina Sparks is one of them. I would call probably Trey Atwood on the OC, a postmodern wrecking ball, but he was a lot of things. He was a lot of things. Go watch my OC season 2 analysis video if you want to hear me talk about Trey Atwood. But I'm just saying that Josh Schwartz knows about this archetype, and he knows that that's what you're supposed to do. When things start to feel too comfortable, which Gossip Girl allowed itself to feel too comfortable for maybe 5 minutes, but that's enough. And the the rapid speed, ultra rich and glamorous world of Gossip Girl, that's enough. It doesn't want you to relax too much. Oh, what? Serena and Dan, they've been happy for way too long now. Let's fuck it up. Bring in Michelle Trachtenberg, bring in the dream girl of every dude my age, bring her in, and let's burn everything down, everything that we so carefully designed. Georgina Sparks challenges our two primary protagonists here. Honestly, they are our moral compasses, are the ones that work. Dan Dan is really supposed to be our introduction into this ultra rich elite group. We might not be able to relate to some of the problems that Chuck Bass and Nathaniel Archibald have. But Dan is kind of our gateway. He's our eyes, and he's also our morality. Dan understands right and wrong. And Serena is our reformed nihilist queen of the damned. And she's trying desperately to stay on the straight and narrow. She's trying desperately to be as good as Dan. Dan inspires Serena to live in a way that is virtuous and authentic. And if what I just said sounded boring, yeah, and that's the problem, right? Gossip Girl has no time for happy endings. Georgina Sparks comes in. Georgina Sparks was a friend of Serena, who was around during Serena's bad girl days. And Georgina and Serena were both there and kind of were around when a dude overdosed on drugs and left him there. Serena, of course, being more virtuous always, inherently, than Georgina, at least called the ambulance before they ran away. But they still ran away. But Georgina is trying to blackmail Serena into remaining a static archetype, right? Chuck Bass rejected his arc. He rejected the narrative and resumed the position that he had originally filled as the nihilistic villain of the pilot episode by the season's end. That was his choice. Serena was trying desperately to fulfill an arc, to experience character growth and emotional change. Georgina Sparks does not like that idea. Georgina wants to keep her a static archetype. Georgina sees the arc coming, and she's seeing that it's leading to a more sanitized place, or to a place that is outside of her control. She's an incredible villain, because what a villain is supposed to do, if the villain, it's the villain of the narrative, right? I think what a villain is supposed to do in a postmodern way, if you have a postmodern villain, is what they're supposed to do. Normally, a villain is supposed to challenge the hero, and through those challenges that the hero overcomes to conquer evil and defeat the villain, that's how the hero changes and completes an arc, right? So that's normally like in a standard narrative, that's what the villain's supposed to do. In a postmodern narrative, the villain is supposed to just do everything that she can to keep the hero from experiencing that arc. You understand what I'm saying? She saw the arc coming. She's trying to reject the narrative on a massive scale. She's trying to punish and torture the main character of the show into a position where she's not only not allowed to change, she's almost infantilized to a worse place than she was, a worse place than she's ever been. Georgina Sparks is a fascinating and complex, philosophically astute postmodern villain because she's standing in the way of our lead and the completion of an arc. She does not want her to change. She wants her to be The queen, the nihilistic lost. Georgina loses, not entirely. Dan and Serena do break up as a consequence of Georgina's interference. Georgina pretended to be someone else named Sarah uh, to disrupt and destroy the relationship that Dan and Serena had, and even tried to seduce Dan. And Dan is a far stronger man than me. I would not have lasted 10 seconds if Michelle Trachtenberg was giving me those eyelashes. I don't know, dude. She was hot. I don't know what to say. That's such a villain. I would not have been able to resist. And Dan didn't like really resist too much, but he didn't sleep with her because he's supposed to be our moral compass. All I know is I would not. I would not be God, what am I even saying at this point? The analysis has devolved to a point where I'm like, yo, I would have just slept with Georgina Sparks. I'm not fucking Dan. Georgina does have an effect, have a lasting effect. She does affect the narrative, but Serena still feels a change. She still gets to feel her arc. So she is still a victorious character, after all. But how Georgina is defeated is by Blair Waldorf. And it's such a beautiful moment. Blair goes up against a postmodern villain that did make Chuck nervous, that did scare and frighten Chuck. Blair faces her head on and sends her away, removes her from the narrative with that billion-dollar grin. She says, "Enjoy reformatory school. Didn't you know I'm the crazy bitch around here?" Even Georgina Sparks, even her influence doesn't work on Blair Waldorf. Blair Waldorf is terrifying, and I find her maddeningly absorbing. I'm obsessed with Blair Waldorf. I think she's a phenomenal character. I love her and Chuck together because that's a kind of energy that could light the world on fire. With the ease, grace, and pleasure that she took out of defeating Georgina, this villain that seemed kind of unstoppable, to be honest. And Michelle Trachtenberg did wonderfully here, by the way, if I could just praise her for a moment. She even looked like she had fun being this devious and evil, and I liked seeing her have fun. But the pleasure that Blair expressed in causing and watching Georgina's demise, that wasn't just sexy. It was politically and philosophically powerful. Blair Waldorf, that's the one character I wouldn't fuck with at all, and neither should you. We can even talk on gossip itself for a second. Gossip is a postmodern reinvention of truth. What is truth? Does truth have any value? Not really. And truth is simply what is agreed on. Truth isn't something like objectivity doesn't necessarily exist. Not really. Or even if it does exist, it doesn't mean there's value on it. The truth can be really boring. Gossip is truth given narrative, arguably. Gossip Gossip is the truth of the teenage experience, or gossip is the truth of our modern world. It doesn't matter what actually happened. Facts don't necessarily matter. The narrative does. The ability to reach an arc does. Who's on top matters. Villains and heroes matter, but villains and heroes don't necessarily exist within truth. Villains and heroes, heartbreakers and heart takers, those are the property of gossip. And this is a show that's seemingly obsessed with that insertion of truth, the reinvention of circumstance, the interpretation of an event. Gossip. Is gossip fun? I've never had a better time. Gossip Girl is wonderfully designed. Each episode has an event, or most of the episodes do, have an event that they're leading to, and they have all of these different moving parts that are all like timed explosives, all set to go off to explode at the zenith, at the apex of the event. It could be a masked ball, a wedding, a cotillion, a slumber party. There's always like a big event happening that several or all of the characters are attending. By the time they get there, all the different moving parts from the subplots and main storylines come to a head there, and something huge happens, and it's very theatrical. And the theatricality lends itself to my analysis because the lives of the ultra rich um, are ones that are on display. Gossip Girl itself, each one of these kids, they're being tracked by a website, by technology, because technology plays a big part in this show. I think the most interesting part about it is that it's kind of surveillance. Uh, the surveillance of narrative. Narrative is terrifying in Gossip Girl to me. This is the best postmodern fucking teen drama. This is like what I want from the form. I hope you understand why I'm saying that now. The surveillance of narrative. Everything that they do is being tracked by Gossip Girl, this website that everyone reads within their social bubble, within their world, and their world is the one that matters, right? You can even send tips to Gossip Girl and influence the interpretation of the truth to um build and flesh out the narrative that you want to pursue. That's so cool and complex and sophisticated. Um, but the lives of the ultra rich are on display. And you can read about them on the Gossip Girl blog or website. You can read about it. You can read about everything about them. So, and the fact that they all come to heads at these events in a very theatrical way on a stage in front of a countless amount of eyeballs. That's the teen experience of the surveillance of narrative. And that's also one of the most terrifyingly postmodern readings of the lived teen experience that I've ever watched. And I think it's truthful, and I think it's telling, and I think it's quite remarkable. Um, it's deeply affecting, actually. Jenny's even fun to watch because she gets to fulfill an arc, but she has one of the arcs where she's almost back to square one, knowing that she's better, all the better for it. um, for going on the journey that made her understand and be thankful for what she had originally, because she takes on Blair. She went for the queen and she missed, and she got worse, and we could see her kind of soul deteriorating, and it was tragic for a bit. But by the end, she's happy to be with her dad. She's happy to be creating fabric, creating gowns and dresses in her modest apartment with her family. And so is Dan happy to be with Vanessa, away from this ultra rich group. And then the ultra rich kids are with the ultra rich kids. I've never seen an arc kind of work in this way where all this change happens because it is perfect television, right? Because you have to have some sort of baseline. You have to stay true to the melody or to the beat that the pilot lays down. I think that's also why this show, I think, is so masterfully designed, because the arc can take us so far and they experience so much change, and then our primaries are back within their original archetypal roles, but we feel that their archetypes have expanded, with the exception of Chuck, who has deliberately made his archetype even smaller, which is why he's so fucking cool. Talks about the currency of the teen experience. Currency of the teen experience, secrets, gossip, things other people want to know that you know. That's what currency is. Every teenager pays a high price for not only popularity, but status and romance. There's always a high price. And a lot of kids can't afford it no matter where you come from because the price is emotion, the price is soul, the price is sanity. The price is your reason, and the price is normally unreasonable. I was deeply, 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 deeply impressed, shocked, and mesmerized by Gossip Girl Season 1. I can't wait to be back here in a week talking about Season 2. I could go on and on about this. And I know when I go to edit this video and put it up, I'll be like, man, why didn't I talk about that? Or why didn't I say more? But I'm gonna save you from my ramblings. Just know that this is what I consider to be teen drama at its best. It's everything I want from the form. It's postmodern in a way that I find challenging and confrontational. It deals with class and social stratification, so it has a political kind of subtext that I find valuable um, to engage with. It has beautiful actors playing extraordinarily conflicted characters, and this kind of insane playground of wealth and betrayal, with just thin veil of hope, and even thinner than that, possibility of a sincere act. Gossip Girl is nearly Shakespearean in its postmodern tragedy, and I love it. I love it so much that it's kind of unreal. So thank you for watching me. Hopefully you continue to watch my Gossip Girl videos. I think we're actually going to I think we're gonna go to some really, really cool places the further we get into this show. And I can't wait to explore more of these characters in different ways with more and more of you. Thank you for watching. XOXO.